Lewis Hamilton greater than Ayrton Senna? Wow. What Kunal and I didn't know when we asked this very question on last week's episode of the Inside Line F1 podcast was that this would evoke just so many responses from listeners and fans all over the world. And we've had the opinions just flying in, and so many people have had so much to say. So much so that when Kunal and I met today at the studio to record this episode, we were met with a mob of fans waiting there, demanding to know how could we even think of asking such a question.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, Miss Mehta, the last week has been controversially interesting, if I may say so. The question we asked had such a massive impact that we had even the great Lewis Hamilton come out publicly and state that Ayrton Senna is the genuine hero.
Now I am convinced that he listens to our podcast as well, Kunal. But before we get lynched, let me clarify. Statistically speaking, Lewis Hamilton might yet just better Ayrton Senna's record this weekend in Singapore. Statistically.
Yes, but statistics only reveal half of the truth. That's my opinion. They do not reveal fan sentiments, or for that matter, capture challenges offered by the different eras, which pretty much reflects in this case as well.
Very well said. Jean Lacy and Mark Webber have both told us that Lewis Hamilton has the 2015 World Championship in the bag.
Yes, my dear friends, but tell me something I don't already know.
The interest would then shift to when will Lewis Hamilton release his album with Canadian rapper Drake?
Now, since we started this podcast on a comparison, here too Hamilton will have an F1 driver to compare statistics with. And if I may add, an F1 driver who's also a former world champion. 1997 Formula One world champion Jacques Villeneuve released a music album but saw only 836 records sold.
Only 836? Wow, I don't think Lewis is going to have a very hard time matching and far bettering that record. But Kunal, like Bernie, do you two think that our world champion perhaps is taking his lifestyle a little too seriously?
I think this is a very personal question best left for Lewis to answer. For me, so long as he arrives at the races and wins, there's no questioning his lifestyle or his commitment. And let's admit, he is the perfect world champion for Formula One as a business. He is opening up an American market which the sport otherwise has consistently struggled to do so.
And what better way to do that than being consistently seen with Hollywood stars and models and musicians and being linked to Rihanna? I mean, all of this ultimately only reinforces Formula One's glamorous image. And of course, the fans and sponsors love it.
Here too, he seems unbeatable when you compare him with the other world champions on the grid, like Vettel, Button, Alonso, and maybe even Raikkonen.
But this is where I'd like to say that Lewis Hamilton should reunite with Nicole Sherzinger. After all, it just seems that Formula One is in the mood to rekindle lost love. We saw Alonso reunite with McLaren and McLaren's wooing of Honda. And who knows, next year we might see Red Bull Racing reunite with Ferrari engine power.
More than reuniting, this seems like Red Bull Racing following the footsteps of their blue-eyed quadruple world champion racer Sebastian Vettel.
Well put, Kunal. We've also had Lewis Hamilton comment on how a large part of his heart yet lies with McLaren. I yet remember when he'd only just moved to Mercedes, how he'd driven into the McLaren pit box during his early days there.
But I'm really, really scared. The reunifications haven't really worked out for Alonso or McLaren at the moment, and I'm in half a mind to call up Red Bull Racing and tell them, stay away from Ferrari.
I think you should make that call. But if not Mercedes or Ferrari, Red Bull Racing just doesn't seem to have any option at all.
Yes, they've limited options in my view. First, deal with Renault and their issues. Second, accept Ferrari's offer since Mercedes have declined. Third, build their own engines, or fourth, which is the easiest, is to quit the sport.
Or threaten to quit the sport. But what would you do if you were Christian Horner?
To start with, I would not marry Jerry Halliwell.
No, I meant the engine and not the marital preference, but thank you for that.
Okay, so if I was Christian Horner, I would go with the Ferrari option. Renault's commitment to the sport is worrying, and Mercedes seem too scared to provide me with their engines. Also, Mercedes' commitment to their customer teams in terms of providing upgrades is questionable at the moment too. So I would choose Ferrari, who anyway seem to have a better engine at the moment than Renault.
It's interesting and not surprising to note that you've excluded Honda altogether from your consideration set.
I think if McLaren had their way, they would have excluded Honda too. But talking of building own engines, that's a very dangerous part to go into. I wouldn't recommend Red Bull Racing pursue that. If Renault and Honda, despite their automotive history and technological brilliance and prowess and the infrastructure they have struggled, there is little hope for Red Bull Racing to do so. It could end up being a black hole of investments. And let's remember, they're an energy drinks company at the end of the day. That's their core business. Formula One is a marketing platform at best.
I just can't get past the irony. So you have the world's leading energy drinks manufacturer, and here they are struggling to find energy to power their Formula One cars for next year. Very strange.
There is talk that Red Bull Racing is trying to put together a team of engineers and use the Volkswagen brand to build an engine. If they successfully do so, they should actually challenge Mercedes to manufacture energy drinks in the future.
But I would agree with Mercedes. When they have refused to provide engines to Red Bull Racing for next season, it is with good reason. I mean, Red Bull Racing have this dubious track record of being the sport's latest and biggest crybabies. And my background in journalism would tell me that this is definitely not a place that Mercedes should venture into.
Absolutely spot on. In an era that is best known for Mercedes and the might of their hybrid turbo engines, you wouldn't want a powerful customer such as Red Bull Racing cry foul at any point of time.
And amid all of this speculation, there are also reports that none other than Bernie Ecclestone will play arbitrator in the ongoing, divorce proceedings between Red Bull Racing and Renault in Singapore.
His business interests lie in ensuring Red Bull as a brand remains invested in Formula One. But if only he maintained similar levels of interest in keeping the midfield teams in the sport too.
If only. But should this divorce actually come through? End the road for Renault in Formula One?
Technically no. There is talk yet that they might buy out Lotus. It's been on for a while. And should they do so, they could run that as a works team.
On the point of Lotus, plenty of helping hands coming their way, with good reason. Bernie paid for their wages, Renault is supporting them through their court case, and of course, they have Pastor Maldonado for all their other bills.
I'm going to add to that list, they were helped by Ferrari, Toro Rosso, and Sauber in Monza when their tire blankets were deemed unusable.
Wow, I feel left out, Kunal. We should write to them asking if the Inside Line F1 podcast can help them in any way. But if the Renault buyout isn't complete, Lotus could go the Caterham way,
You mean shut shop?
That maybe, but not entirely. What I mean is crowdfunding. They could look to, perhaps sell some parts of their cars and raise a few millions or more.
That is if Pastor Maldonado leaves parts of the car undamaged.
Difficult ask. But you know what? There might just be a market there in itself. So what Lotus could do is sell off parts of the car which Pastor damaged while crashing into existing world champions, Front wing for sale that Maldonado used to bump off Hamilton or Button or whoever might come in his way. That could actually, command a premium now that I think about it.
Talking of premium, McLaren's premium image and earnings might be set to take a beating if their on-track form doesn't resurrect anytime soon.
Ouch.
The ninth place in the World Constructors Championship could mean a loss of earnings of about $15 million from Formula One alone. To add to that, the difficulty of attracting new or retaining current sponsors.
They're the only bottom rung team that has 2 world champions on their payroll.
That's very well put.
And I wonder if this is actually going to lead to them dropping Jenson Button next season. And hey, we all love Jenson Button.
Yes, yes. And would that mean bringing back Kevin Magnussen or Stefan Van Dorn? But I wonder who would actually want to race a car with a Honda engine in this era.
Interestingly enough, McLaren has said that they would not block Kevin Magnussen's exit should he choose to race elsewhere, though where is another question. And meanwhile, Kimi Raikkonen has said that in this PlayStation generation, experience is not necessary. So, pretty much going by Raikkonen's words, retaining the very experienced Button isn't necessary for McLaren.
Yeah, that might be true, but I just remembered Verstappen when he said that he practiced his famous Blanchimont overtaking move on the video game first.
Wow. I really can't wait to see Verstappen's moves in Singapore this weekend.
Singapore Grand Prix, Asia's most exciting Grand Prix at the moment. Do you agree?
I thought it was Suzuka and Japan. I mean, drivers seem to swear by the S's and the spoon and whatnot.
Well, I meant for the fans. There's a Grand Prix and there are some dudes called Maroon 5 and Pharrell Williams performing.
I wonder if we'll get to see Lewis Hamilton performing there soon off the track as well. But I wonder what it is with farmers in Formula One these days, So there's a haze in Singapore, and that's actually threatening the smooth operations of the race this year. And the reason for that is that farmers in the Sumatra Islands have actually burned their land for agriculture. So in Spa, we had farmers protest over milk prices and almost, lead to the race being obstructed. And now this, very strange.
Haze, I'm going to stick to that word. I remember we had haze for the Indian Grand Prix one of the years, and there was media blowout on the pollution in our country. I really wonder what they'll say this time about Singapore now.
I just wish that the Indian government supported the Indian Grand Prix as much as the Singaporean government has supported theirs.
Yes, the Singapore Grand Prix, in my view, is a good model for many countries to follow, old and new. But for now, the easier part of the prediction would be that Hamilton would better Senna's record this weekend.
I think we will see a Williams on the podium, but it might not be Massa or Bottas. I suspect we might see Pharrell Williams on the podium conducting the post-race interviews. Remember, you heard it first here.
Yes. I'm going to add to that. So, when Lewis wins, and if he wins, he might just start wrapping his post-race answers with Pharrell Williams for all we know.
Wow, that sounds like fun already. But do you think Mercedes will have reliability issues as they did at Monza?
I think Monza was a one-off. We should see them clinch a 1-2 if things go as per plan.
Well, in this absolutely perfect script, the only uncontrolled part is the race start, which has been manual since Spa. I can only just hope that it spices up the action as it has in the past 2 races. On that note, Kunal, over to Marina Bay Circuit in Singapore.